Welcome back to Black Enterprise Business Report. With the presidential election right around the corner, one of the hottest topics is tax cuts. Both Barack Obama and John McCain claim they will lower taxes while the other will raise them. But whose plan will benefit you? How much are the tax breaks, and when will you see the green? Joining us to clear up all the confusion is financial expert and president of Optimum Capital Management, Ryan Mack, and BlackEnterprise.com editor-in-chief, Alfred Edmond Jr. I want to thank both of you for joining us. And we're going to discuss both McCain and Obama. We're not picking any preference here, but we're going to start with McCain's camp. Now, there is advocates who say that he is giving a lot of misinformation about Barack Obama's tax plan. So can you help us sift through what is myth and what is fact?
Well, first of all, Barack Obama will not raise taxes on the middle class. They firmly have stated many times, McCain, that he will raise taxes on the middle class. He will not. If you're making over $250,000 a year, first of all, he'll give you a 2% Social Security tax. He will roll back the George Bush tax cuts that he implemented during his administration. And Barack Obama also wants to raise the top marginal tax rates to 39%. If you're earning $150,000 a year or less, you'll get a $500 tax cut if you're an individual. If you're earning between $8,000 and $75,000 a year, and you're a working family, you'll get a $1,000 tax cut. Truth be told, according to taxpolicycenter.org, Barack Obama's plan will give 4 times an average savings for 80% of the country than John McCain's plan.
By contrast, if you're making more than $5 million in total net worth or making more than $200,000 a year, then you're going to lean toward McCain, who wants to maintain the Bush tax cuts, who wants to increase the estate planning tax, the estate tax ceiling. Now, but how many Americans, particularly in the current economic environment, are pulling in $200,000 or more and have more than a $5 million net worth?
It's a very good point that you make about $200,000, because $200,000 for a family of 4, 5, or 6 is not a lot of money, especially when your housing costs are so expensive. I think really that swath in the middle is where that makes a big difference.
Well, that's the battleground. There's just this battle over defining the middle class and then trying to capture that territory. But again, when you talk about a net worth of $5 million, there are a lot of people in the upper middle class who can't claim that kind of wealth.
And I think the important thing we have to look at here is how are we going to pay for these tax cuts? Absolutely. And even Greenspan came out and stated that John McCain's tax plan was not fiscally responsible. If you look at the 2 tax plans and how much they're going to cost the U.S. economy, John McCain's plan is going to cost the U.S. about $4.2 trillion. Barack Obama is going to cost about $2.9 trillion. Greenspan said that John McCain is essentially giving tax cuts with borrowed funds, and he has no plan on paying. He said he'll reduce earmark spending, he'll reduce pork barrel spending, but he doesn't give any specifics in terms of how he's going to pay for the plan. Barack Obama, on the other hand, says, I'm going to roll back the George Bush tax cuts, one, that we shouldn't have gotten in the first place.
Absolutely.
And secondly, we're going to pull these people out of Iraq, and we're spending $10 billion a month, and we're going to do what John McCain said.
So you got to look at the current economic environment. We're talking about on the McCain plan, building already on a record deficit.
Exactly.
And dealing with the spending that he intends to continue, at least for the foreseeable future, on the war in Iraq and, of course, our needs in Afghanistan and other parts of the country, the world, rather.
Well, let me ask you this. Obama's plan, I think from both of you, that I get the picture that you think it's going to be good for the middle class and certainly for those who are under that. Yeah. But what about investment and investors and high-income wealth families who make over $200,000?
Well, I want to go quote one of my favorite philosophers, Charles Barkley, who says, yeah, I'll take a bigger hit, but I can afford it. So this goes to what's best for the entire country. And I think we get a look at, in the current economic environment, in the current global environment, what is the most responsible thing to do for the economic health of the entire country? And the fact of the matter is, people who are at the higher ends of the income brackets can absorb more of the load in terms of keeping the country going economically.
And let's also remember what's been happening over the past 8 years. You know, George Bush inherited a $287 billion surplus. Now we have a trade deficit of about $350 billion, forecasted by 2010 is going to be even larger than that. And John McCain himself voted against the George Bush tax cuts back in 2005. But after that, now we're even worse situation than we are before. So we have all these things that are happening that indicate that we have a worse economic conditions now. So we cannot afford this tax cuts. The U.S. economy is not an endless barrel of money.
This is not a matter of what's best for Obama or what's best for McCain. It's about what's best economically and financially for the health of the country. And it's important to note, nobody's against companies making a lot of money. but you're making a lot of money as part of a national community and a global community, and in this case, a national economy.
And, you know, Walmart is not going to make money if people don't have money to spend
Absolutely.
at Walmart. And so if you really look at, in terms of what John McCain is proposing, it's nothing really different than what we've heard 8 years ago when George Bush ran as a reformer, ran on cutting taxes, ran on trying to curtail spending. That's the GOP platform. But we've seen where that got us. And
More than once.
Yeah, more than once. And it's no difference in terms of his policy issues. You ask John McCain, what are you going to do differently than what George Bush has done for the past 8 years? He gives you no substantial differences in terms of concrete policy issues.
Okay. Well, I tell you what. You both have a lot of opinions. I think that it was good. It's good to have this dialogue, and this certainly should continue. I think the great advice for all of us is to dig, and get in the meat of the issues. I want to thank both of you, Ryan, as well as you, Alfred. We appreciate your time. And if you'd like a more in-depth look at both candidates' platforms, please check out our website at blackenterprise.com and click on the Politics tab.